Well, I am back now, and we're getting ready to wrap this thing up. I got Suge, a.k.a. Kevin Kendrick, with me from the volunteer state of Tennessee, as you guys know, and we've been talking about New Jack. And before I continue on into the whole closing of New Jack, not here to memorialize the guy per se, or give a eulogy, I should say, but we just reflecting and talking about some of our top moments. But there was a guy who gave a eulogy of sorts of his own, and his name was Paul Heyman. And I don't know if you guys saw that on the closing of Talking Smack. You can go over to YouTube and watch it. It's on YouTube. It was a little under 2 minutes, I believe. And Paul gave a very touching, nice words, tribute of sorts to New Jack. Now, I don't know where they were in this current day and age. I don't know. I remember he had a falling out with Jim Cornette that lasted for some years, and that too had passed. Where was Paul Heyman and New Jack in 2021? I don't know. I can't speak on it. I won't try to speak on it. But what I will do is I will let the both of them speak for themselves. So Paul Heyman will give an interview of sorts, just some words that he shared. And if you guys didn't hear it, I want you to hear it right now.
When I heard that New Jack had passed away, my hope was that New Jack had turned to his wife and said, "Hey, I'd like to read my own obituary. Call a bunch of people and tell them that I died. And then everybody's going to make a big fuss about it, and I'll read about my own life." And then at some point this weekend, they'd sell a bunch of T-shirts, and he'd sit there and go, "Gotcha." Because that's what New Jack would do. And apparently it's not so, which sucks. And usually when we would pay tribute to somebody here in WWE, we'd show a lot of footage of that person. And to be blunt, we can't show you a lot of footage of New Jack because he was the most non-PG performer in sports entertainment history. Because New Jack was a gangsta. And everybody who was a fan of ECW that came to see ECW, who watched ECW, knew that fact from the moment his music hit. And no, we never had rights to use his music. Why? Because as an organization, we were gangsters. And New Jack was the most gangsters of all of us gangsters. It's over 20 years ago. And anybody that ever saw New Jack perform live or heard him cut a promo understood just how real he was.
All right, and that was Paul Heyman from Talking Smack, and I gotta tell you, man, that is Paul Heyman can talk the flesh off of someone's skeleton. I told you.
That's very good. I'm sorry. That's very good.
Paul Heyman can speak to someone who may or may not believe in God, convince them that there is an afterlife, and then talk them into believing that hell is the actual better place to go. Why? Because that's Paul Heyman. That's what he does. Paul Heyman is an oratory master. That is what he does. Paul Heyman is prolific in his speech. He is the most well-spoken individual in wrestling, certainly in the WWE. Paul Heyman. is the master at putting one word together with another word. Even if those words do not coincide and make sense, he will make you believe every word that is being spoken. And then you'll say, that actually makes sense, because that's Paul Heyman. I love that reflection on New Jack. I thought Paul spoke from a camera perspective, from his heart. It looked as if it was challenging for him to speak. It looked as if he was emotional talking about Jack. But that's Paul Heyman. Paul Heyman, in speaking about Jack here, mentioned that we usually show a lot of footage, but we can't do that. In the PG era, when New Jack was the furthest thing from PG that there is, because he was the gangsta of the gangstaist. Well, I don't know what WWE could have done or couldn't have done, but I do know this. There was no Nelson Frazier, a.k.a. Big Daddy V, footage. There was no Beast, a.k.a. Shad Gaspard, footage. And the list goes on and on. And I'm not talking about the 3 seconds at the top of the program. I don't know if they did that or not, because I didn't watch the openings of the show. I wonder if they did that for Raw and for NXT. I don't know. I don't know, folk. I don't know. Will they put some footage of him together and put it for you to watch on the Peacock stream? I don't know. But what I do know is that after watching Heyman's very well spoken moment about New Jack at the end of Talking Smack, I tried to find something nice that New Jack said about Paul Heyman. I don't mean to spoil anything, but why are you going to share this? Because you never know where individuals are in life. And Pope being Pope, I like to just put everything out there as is. Now, from my mindset and from what I know and from what I've heard and from what I'm listening to, things appear to be a little different. But if they are on better terms at the time of New Jack's transition, then so be it. But certainly, I think it's only fair because, see, this is what happens, as always. The victor. And who's the victor here? Everybody that's outlived New Jack. They get to tell their own story now. Hell, they get to tell New Jack's story to an extent when it involves them or what they've witnessed, however they choose to tell that story. Because they're the victor. They're still here. I don't know what their relationship was, and I'm certainly not denying Paul Heyman's authenticity here. So please don't take it that way. I just want to give you food for thought. And I just want to let you know, from what the last I knew, that New Jack thought of Heyman. And let's see if they add up. Okay, and again, before I share this is New Jack's thought on Paul Heyman from some, not yesterday, not last month, but this is New Jack's from one of his shoot interviews that he did. Here's what he had to say about Paul Heyman. And I wonder if Paul, well, here, let's just listen to this.
Paul Heyman, he told everybody in ECW that he was going to do a deal after we lost TV with, what was it, TNN, right? He says, I'm going out to California and I'm going to do this deal and I ain't coming back until I have a new TV deal signed. But for those that didn't know, Paulie went out to fucking California to do that movie Rollerball. That's why he was in California. He didn't give a fuck about us. You know, he said, I'm the captain of the ship. I'm not going to go down unless, you know, I ain't going to let y'all go down unless I go down. I'm the captain. I go with the ship. And the whole time he was planning some shit to do what he did. He jumped fucking ship. And people actually believed in that cocksucking motherfucker. And a lot of guys to this day can't get a job because Paulie got heat with him, and he makes it a point that they will not get hired in fucking WWE. Me, myself, I know I won't go to WWE because if I went and I saw him, I'd smack the shit out of him. If I saw his mama, I'd run over her with my fucking car. I'd tie his daddy to a fence and let a bull butt fuck him. You know what I'm saying? Because he ain't shit. The motherfucking air that he breathes, he ought to be contaminated. He's a fucking worthless piece of shit. Him and that cocksucker Todd Gordon, both of them can suck my dick. Only problem is it might feel good and I might like it. So I don't even want them to do that. Alright? Todd Gordon's another one.
Well, all right. And that was New Jack talking about Paul Heyman. And then he went on into Todd Gordon, who was, you know, the guy in charge of the old bingo hall that they used to wrestle in, the ECW arena. Now, you got to ask yourself, Suge, if New Jack outlives Paul Heyman, after what we just heard, is there a different New Jack talking about Paul Heyman? Or is, and as Paul Heyman said, he's a gangsta. And as I've been saying, New Jack's a real one. Do you think New Jack's tune would be different if Paul Heyman expired today before he did?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I think Paul Heyman is the master at his craft. I think he is a promo artist. I think that New Jack, again, being the real one, I think he would have had the same thoughts. Paul Heyman owes me $5,000.
Wow.